Hey guys, welcome to Living Free in Tennessee. I hope you can hear me. Sometimes my audio gets shot off to my television in the other room. I'm just going to double check that setting. Oh, good. We have audio. Well, it is Monday and time to have a great week, right? And I always say, make it a great week at the end of the podcast. And I'm going to have to take my own advice this week. I made myself a nice cup of peppermint tea. It's actually chocolate mint that I grew out on the hillside garden that I talked about last year that we redid. It has a lot of rocks, and that's how we made the retaining wall. Between the rocks are cracks. In the cracks, things grow. And so the deal is this: you plant what you want in those cracks, you're going to get what you get in those cracks. And I found some chocolate mint last year, and it was a really great crack plant. So I'm drinking crack plant today as part of our live stream, and that's because if you probably didn't see my short videos, but I did a couple shorts to promote this podcast today because it's after 2. I'm recording my podcast. I usually record it much earlier in the day, and I don't feel very good because my dental work that was done on this side of my mouth is 2 weeks old and not healing. And I don't get to see anybody about that until next week. I am allergic to most pain meds, so pain meds I can't take them. I'm doing turmeric and willow bark and aspirin. I can do that, but ibuprofen's a no for me. And I don't know, any of you dealt with chronic pain in your life? It's just sort of like always there, and it kind of makes you tired. So I was kind of thinking today about how much what I really want to do is hit my brand new bathtub, which is glorious, take a nice bath, crawl into that bed over there, read a book, and fall asleep. And I have so much to do. Like, there's lots of cool stuff going on. I've got the Next Steps event I'm speaking at in February. I'm getting all ready for that. That's turning out to be a pretty badass presentation. I'm very excited about it. And I'm co-presenting with 2 other ladies who I hope to get on a live stream this week. And they're going to be great to work with. So, like, super excited about that. I've got the second podcast in the My 3 Things series, which is today's podcast. Excited about that. Self-Reliance Festival is really coming together, like, in some exciting ways. I'm going to be announcing some exciting speakers. And I mean, we already have exciting speakers. We have more exciting speakers. So that's really cool. So there's lots of good stuff going on, but then this pain thing happens. And I don't know. It's just, I almost gave up today. And I reminded myself, if you're going to be successful, Nicole, what you need to do is push through. And sometimes if you just push, right? You get yourself strung out, you get sick, and then you're in trouble. That's not good. But if you don't push through stupid stuff like this and do what's important and deliver on things, then you're never successful. So there's a balance. And today is a push through day. And I'm sharing that story because I know some of you are like facing chronic exhaustion, not feeling very great, chronic pain like I am, all sorts of different stuff. And in fact, somebody on one of our social networks today was talking about how do you keep going, and they ended up taking a nap today, and that was the right decision for them. For me, that would have been a terrible idea because if I go to sleep right now, I'm not getting up till tomorrow morning, and there's no reason. Like, I had a good night's sleep last night. I've been eating really well. I'm having peppermint tea as a pick-me-up because I'm not doing a lot of caffeine in the afternoon, even though I'm a coffee roaster. I have about 2 cups a day, guys. I don't drink a lot of coffee compared to, well, I mean, maybe 2 cups a day is a lot of coffee, but I don't drink a lot. I don't just like suck it down all day because that makes me more tired and doesn't make me feel very good. So I don't know. So peppermint tea from the land. Oh yeah, I'll try some cloves. That's a great idea. Clove oil would be great for the tooth pain. Anyway, so we're going to do a live recording of today's podcast. I have my notes over here to my right. If you see me like looking off on the notes, and I'll do the same thing I always do, which is a 5-second pause, and I'll start the podcast. I'll record the podcast. If you in the live stream have any questions along the way, put them in all caps and I'll star them with my little star tool. This is only for YouTube on that. I don't think Twitter filters their comments in, but I will start with the star tool, and then I will answer them as best I can. If they don't quite fit in the show, I will answer them after I end the show. Also, if anybody who looks like me solicits you to go off into a private chat room and give them Bitcoin, that's not me. I will never do that. So do not, even if they have my logo and my look and feel, don't do it. We had a really clever one who was able to use an upper or I think it was a one instead of an L in the name, in the username, and it looked like Nicole Sauce, and it wasn't. It was Nicole One E Sauce sort of thing. So a lot of shenanigans have been happening, and I don't support shenanigans. If I need money, you'll hear about it on a podcast. If it's for a cause, you will know what it's for. Usually I operate through third-party operations, except for when I'm raising money for an anonymous community need, in which case we do that through my PayPal. My PayPal is a business PayPal, and then it goes straight out of that into the person's hands. So that's happened a few times in the past and always been a great thing to do. Okay, you guys ready to go? Let's do this because it's time for the second in the series of the My Three Things. My Three Things. Only there's going to be, well, we'll talk about that. Let's go. Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Monday, January 30th, 2023, and this is episode 692 of Living Free in Tennessee, and it's the second in the My Three Things series that I started earlier this month. I have been intending to get to this all month, and it's been, well, let's just say a lot happened this month, and My Three Things told me that while this was important, some of the other things was more important. And so I did work through that stuff before I got to this episode. I also wanted to make sure that energetically I was in a place where I could give you enough information on the develop my purpose topic, which is what we're talking about today, that it makes sense. And when that other stuff was going on, there were some emotional things that happened. I was afraid I would be sort of like, I get a little bit esoteric when there's emotional stuff going on. So, and there was a lot of it this month. Anyway, we'll be talking about that. But before we jump into that, I will also be going through my normal segments, which means if you're listening to this podcast just to hear that, I really think you need to forward into the podcast 15 to 25 minutes because I go through the same segments every Monday morning. We are going to go through those same segments today. And then I'll hop into My Three Things. When I know what that is, like if you want to know what the actual skip forward thing is, I'll look at the audio and see if I can add that to the show notes if you want to shortcut that. Okay, before we jump into the first segment of today's show, I wanted to talk about our featured event today. And that is the opt out of CBDC webinars by John Bush. That's right. It's not one of my events. It's not an event I'm even speaking at. It is the opt out of CBDC's event. It's a digital event you can do for free. And it's going to start next week. It goes for 5 days and it has some really cool speakers that you can hear. Let's see, who's on there? Derek Bros is going to be there. Sal the Agorist. Remember him from Unloose the Goose? He'll be there talking about counter economics. Jack Spirko is going to talk about how to get a digital wallet set up. Rebecca Bush, John's new wife. They have her listed as Rebecca Powers, but I think she got married, so I called her Rebecca Bush. She's going to be there. James Corbett, Richard Grove, and they're covering these 5 things. 1, the truth about CBDCs and what must be done to survive the financial transition. Set up cryptocurrency wallet and acquire cryptocurrency anonymously and trade with others, Bitcoin and Monero. That's Jack Spirko. Join the Freedom Cell Network and find like-minded people to connect with in your area, Derek Bros. Buy and sell goods and services in underground markets with alternative currencies. That's Sal the Agorist and Rebecca Powers. And then put everything you learn into actionable plan to break free from CBDCs. That's going to be with Richard Grove. They may have some other surprise people. Look, there's my show notes on the screen, guys. They may have some other surprise things. And the link is in the show notes. It's Live Free Academy. livefree.academy /CBDC opt-out challenge. And then That'll get you to the page. If you want to throw me a bone and use the link that's in the show notes, that does have a referral code. And if you make future purchases at the Live Free Academy after clicking that link, I do get a little bit of a commission there. Just saying that fully transparency. That's not why I am promoting this. I don't promote everything John does. I do promote things I think are cool. And here's why I thought I'd bring this up. I've been getting a lot of people worried about CBDCs coming into place, technocracy taking over our lives, and some emails with fear. And I haven't quite known how to answer those exactly, because on one hand, I don't think we can stop digital currency becoming a tool of the government to track what we do and use it to make sure we pay tax on absolutely everything that has to be paid tax on. I think it's within the realm of possibility that they could link it to carbon credits. And if you have spent too much on something they consider not to be carbon neutral, they could turn off your ability to use CBDC money for those things, right? I think that's possible. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's very likely some sort of centralized digital currency is going to happen. That's the reality of the world. And with that in mind, knowing how they work, what can be done with them, how to use it, if you need to use it, is helpful. Knowing ways to do commerce outside of that system is also helpful. And that's what this is about. It is a 5-day webinar series at Live Free Academy. And what will also happen if you sign up is he's going to try to upsell you on some courses for sale along the topics of cryptocurrency. Just full disclosure, I've had a lot of positive interactions with the webinars, but I don't want anybody to run in there and to be like, he tried to upsell me. He's going to try to upsell you. It's John Bush, man. That's what he does best. That's what we love about John Bush. Okay. Second, I want to thank today's show sponsor. That's freesteading.com, which is a network with the aim to connect more of us together in the homesteader, prepper, freedom world without a bunch of free speech inhibition so we can interact with each other. This is a great way to get to know people who are motivated by some of the same things that we are as homesteaders and small business people and all of that. It's people who are looking for other people to do business with who may not be the Walmarts or the Amazons of the world. That's a good place to do it. There's lots of interesting content over there. And that's over at freesteading.com. If you do go to freesteading.com, join the Living Free in Tennessee community. I post over there a few times a week. If I see responses, I try to respond to people within a day or two. Sometimes that doesn't happen when my internet goes down, but it's a developing community. And one of the problems that it solves is that a lot of us feel like there's this community and that community and that community and that other community. And we're trying to interact like Self-Reliance Festival, LFTN, TSP, Freedom Cells, right? Like all of that. The more of us who have a tool we can use that's, in addition to something like Facebook, where we're not going to be shut down for 24 hours because we called snow white devil dust, which did happen to me on Facebook because that was considered hate speech. I don't know about, okay, I know some of you are snow lovers, but I said what I said. It's white devil dust. Okay, anyway, it's all over at freesteading.com if you want to have just more interactions with us. Of course, if you want to interact with Living Free in Tennessee on social networks, we are most active on Telegram, MeWe, and now Freesteading. Of course, there are also groups on Facebook, which I have started posting there again because there's a lot of people asking me questions there. And I realized I was just ignoring them for 3 years because I left Facebook 3 years ago mostly. And I thought, well, I'm there until I'm kicked off. So that's a great way to interact with people. Next up, I want to go into the live schedule for the week. These are live streams that we're having. First is tomorrow. I'll be live with Nick Ferguson at 12:30. That's at my YouTube channel. Wednesday, I have an interview on the Survival Podcast with Jack Spirko. That's for his show. So that's at the Survival Podcast YouTube. Thursday, we have the Self-Reliance Festival weekly live at 7 p.m. Central. That will be on all over the place, but you can find it at the Living Free in Tennessee YouTube channel. And of course, Friday, we have our 9:30 live for Homestead happening. So lots of live streams. We may add one more with a couple of women who I'm working with on the Next Steps event. I'm hoping we'll do that on Wednesday night, but we'll see. I'll keep you posted on that. With that, it's time for the first segment of today's show. That's Tales from the Prepper Pantry. And this is where we talk about storing what we use and using what we store. My pantry has completely changed in the last 12 months. I know a lot of you took the Power Pantry webinar I did through the Live Free Academy or through our membership portal. And I shared with you all of the things I do with my pantry. But in the last year, something changed in my life. And I think the thing that changed the most is that I do not eat commercial food very often. And it wasn't like I woke up one day and said, I'm not going to eat commercial food. Here, it was a slow move. So I've been homesteading for 15 years. Some years I've produced more on the homestead, some less. I've always sourced stuff locally. I've been buying whole animals for over a decade. And that means I don't usually have to buy meat at the grocery store unless I want a specialty meat like pepperoni or something like that, right? Or lamb. Well, now I raise lamb. So guess what? Don't need to buy that at the store from another farmer. But what has happened as more and more food is coming off of my homestead and I can it, I dry it, I do all freeze it, is just naturally, I've started eating less and less and less from the store. And then I cut out carbs, which means any junk food that was left in my life, which would be ice cream, chocolate, and potato chips, because I was not making potato chips from scratch. Stuff like that, most of that got reduced. I still have chocolate in my life. But I just made a decision that I didn't feel very good and I needed to take control of my health, right? And with that in mind, I decided, well, why do I keep buying and replenishing all this crap I don't eat? Because if it's here, I will eat it, right? And in the last year, I stopped doing that. And man, you know what I buy at the store is like soaps and things, base ingredients like salt, and occasionally, yes, a treat. So it's kind of funny. And then like, textiles and stuff like that, but paper goods, I don't know, still buying some animal feed at the store, but that's really changed. And it's changed how I interact with my pantry a bit in that the pantry is much more closely linked to my day-to-day. Like, am I in a fill it up phase of the year because I'm growing food and it's coming off the land, or am I in a use it up phase? Right now, I'm in a use it up phase, except for some meats. Like we just had babies on the homestead yesterday that will be meat, assuming they make it. And other than that, I'm not really producing stuff. In fact, I didn't even do my indoor lettuce grow operation this winter because I did carnivore January. That means I didn't need lettuce. So I'll probably start some lettuce for the spring workshop because we serve a lot of salad at that. But spring is coming. And with spring coming, we get into this cycle of planting and seedlings, and stuff starts coming off the land and initial harvests. And then we're drying some of the early spring medicinal herbs that come off the land. And then we go into canning season and cheese making season. And oh my goodness, summer chaos season. And then we're back in the fall for the final preservation push. And then it's winter again. We're in a use it up phase. So last year I did a really good job of preserving lots of food. And for some reason, we're eating less here. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe because I've been sort of on the keto wagon for so long, the total overall volume of what I'm eating is lower. I don't know. Maybe fewer people are coming over for dinner. I don't know. Here's what I do know. I need to use up some food that I preserved because my goal is to cycle it through every year. So it's been really funny. I'm not allowed to buy anything at the store at this point as side dishes or anything because we're adding vegetables back in for February. Carnivore January is over. I may have over canned last year. I'll just put it that way. And I mean, I got all that broccoli for free for practically free. I had to pay $1 per one, but practically free, and I freeze dried that. That's been one of the best side dishes this winter. And then we got all the green beans because I was really pushing on green beans last year. I'm not using the tomato sauce. I've got squash everywhere in the root cellar. In fact, I need to go audit those and make sure none of them are rotting. Whew, there's a lot to eat here. And I feel blessed about that. But at the same time, I'm thinking about how much do I really need to store next year? Because it's always that push of I want to, like a good aunt stores all of the food for the winter so that we'll be okay, right? This aunt overstored. That's all I'm saying. So, we'll see what happens because I really don't want to feed that stuff to my livestock. I will because that's the next step, but I don't want to have to do that. I'm also freeze drying the rest of the herbs that I harvested off the garden. What I did, because the freeze dryer where I have it does not have an air conditioner to keep it cold enough for it to freeze dry. So in the summer, the room where it is could be 100 degrees in there. And you don't run your freeze dryer at 100 degrees. So July and August, it doesn't run. September, October, it didn't really run because I was doing Self-Reliance Festival, which was huge. And now it's running again. And what I do is I pre-freeze the things for the freeze dryer because that doesn't change the process. The freeze dryer's first step is to freeze it in the freeze dryer. I freeze it in my freezer. And it sits there until I'm ready to process it. And then I process it. This time of year where the freeze dryer is, it's like 50 degrees in there. So it's perfect for freeze drying. So that's happening. And other than that, we're just like venison coming out this week. I have ground venison tacos queued up for tonight. And then I have a lamb roast for tomorrow. And then we'll see where the rest of the week goes. But pretty much I start my week in the freezers and I look at what we have. And, there's some stuff that's been there for about a year. So I usually choose one or two things for that. And then I choose one or two things I also want to eat because usually the reason it's been there for a year is it's, poultry. And I'm good with poultry once a week. I don't want poultry every day. So that's just me. I don't like poultry the way I used to. It's been since I had COVID. It kind of tastes funny to me. So, but I cook with it once a week because there's a lot of chicken and turkey in my freezer right now. So I pull those things out and then I let them defrost and I just cook one every day. I think about what's for dinner at the beginning of the day so there's not a big surprise at the end of the day. And in this way, we keep up with our lives. So that's what's up in my pantry. It is about time for a resupply of vitamins, which I do order in, and some other normal supplies. But we're just like, we're not using anything like we used to. In the last 3 months, it's really slowed down. And I don't know why. It might just be that we've figured other ways to do things without using stuff that needs to be replenished. I have a lot more reusable items in my life at this point. And that's just, as I said, it was a natural transition of living seasonally and living with a seasonal pantry on a homestead. Faith saying, I have chicken issues since 2020. Yes, Faith. Curried chicken is good. Mexican spiced chicken is good. Chicken in like spaghetti sauce diced up is really good. Spaghetti sauce with some cream added and some hot peppers is really good. I do a lot of different like strong spice flavors with chicken. That's what I do. That's why I'm always bummed when I go to an event and it's like, here's what we're having Monday night, chicken. And then Tuesday night, we're going to have different chicken. And then Wednesday night, we're going to have third kind of chicken. I just started bringing my own freeze-dried food because it's like, well, I don't like chicken very well since I had COVID. It tastes funny. And so if we don't disguise that taste, then it doesn't taste good. So now I'm just like, I have freeze-dried chili or whatever. The freeze dryer has been great that way where I can just bring whole meals places and I just add water and it's done and it's no fuss. And I don't have to like that chicken thing. It's nobody's job to feed me not chicken at events, right? It's my job to take care of myself. I also have some weird food allergies. And so a lot of commercial, like restaurant foods, depending on the restaurant, don't set well with me because of the oils they use. So I usually come prepared to feed myself just in case, because on more than one occasion it has happened that I needed to. Next segment is the weekly shopping report from Joe. And he says this: at the Dollar Tree, the store has changed for the better. Maybe they added or borrowed some staff, but the store has been neatened up considerably. The drink coolers are about 50% stocked and a better product mix, including Venom energy drinks. I don't even know what those are. I don't do beverages like that, so whatever. The shelves are a lot neater too. The health aisle has a lot of products added and nicely organized. The place no longer looks picked and sad, which is good. Home Depot, just check the price of a 2x4x8. It's unchanged from last week at $3.35. Now is a good time to buy building materials, my friends. Aldi was last. They still had heavy cream. We heard a lot of reports in the last 2 weeks about people being out of heavy cream. I found it everywhere I went, and I'm wondering if that's regional, if it's like Northeast is out of cream. Anyway, they had heavy whipping cream. We found everything we wanted, and my debit card was warm but not smoking, which means the prices didn't like double again. There's been a lot of complaint about egg prices too. I was in California and I noticed that eggs at the grocery store were $7.50 or so, but if you went to Trader Joe's, it was about $4. So it depends where you get your eggs. Untainted regular gasoline is $3.99 a gallon. Next up, we have the frugality tip from Charles, and he says, by the way, if you ever want to get a frugality tip in, just send me an email, Nicole@livingfreeintennessee.com with frugality tip in the subject line, and you can be on the show too. So Charles says, test the limits of the toner low notification. That's right. That's the frugality. I totally do this, and I always have. This is the notifications that you get on your printer. The color printer I have has been warning of impending doom for over 2 weeks. Probably over 100 pages have been printed since then with the existing cartridge. At $100 per cartridge or around that, it's well worth running it until the print quality starts getting bad. On some older printers, when you get a low toner warning, you can remove the cartridge, shake it gently, and reinstall it and get another day or so of light printing. Here's my thing on printing. I want quality printing. Anybody who bought Hollow Roast coffee for the last 5 years knows that your packing slip for like 3 of those 5 years had little smudges on them. I replaced the toner or whatever that thing is, the drum. I did the cleaning cycle. I could not get those stupid things to go away, and I decided not to let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and I kept using that printer. Around September last year, I replaced my printer. I still have that crappy printer that leaves the stripes. We bring that printer to Self-Reliance Festival to like print out little things that we want for internal reference, and they have the same smudges on it that you guys used to get on your invoices. But I like to have the more high quality printing for things that I'm sending out to customers, right? And this trick works really well until the toner starts getting light and you can't read it. So if you're going to do that, the other part of successfully doing it is when you have a toner low warning, maybe that's not the time to print 400 pages all in one go. Because what may happen is partway through that job, it's just like KO and done. So think about how that fits, and if it's taking more time to manage that you need to do a 100-page printing job versus replacing the toner cartridge. But you can, I can go for like months usually with a low toner warning, and I do wait until I see that one's starting to get a light. Okay, so it really is running out of toner now. Next up, we have Operation Independence, where I talk about the revenue side of things in my life. This is originally a standalone segment because part of my journey that I've shared with you as part of the Living Free in Tennessee podcast is I woke up and I realized I had made terrible decisions for many years, dug myself into a terrible financial hole, and hated what I was doing for a living and all of the things that are no longer the case now. And Operation Independence was my effort I pushed on 2 sides of the money thing, right? One side is I can reduce expenses and I don't need as much money. And if I don't have to earn money to pay somebody, I don't pay 30% taxes on that. So I don't have to earn 30% more than it costs to pay the person. And that grows my independence fund because now I have more of my money in my pockets. But if I do that and it takes way too much time than just paying a guy, I'm gonna do that ROI, right? Back then, I didn't have that flexibility. Now I have some money and I have that flexibility. The other side is pushing up the income. So having more local revenue sources come in. And this one's a funny one. because we didn't have a lot of shocking revenue things happen in the last little while. But here's what happened. I have had queued up. So we have big projects here we want to do, like replace roofs and install that aquaponics thing on that hillside. And my bathroom, right? My bathroom remodel was on the list. And what I've started doing, because Tactical has been involved in the Holler Homestead for 3 or 4 years now, and he sees things on the homestead because we kind of have roles divided here. He sees different things than I do on a day-to-day basis. And so he'll be like, this broken thing is aggravating me, even though nothing's dying because it's broken. And I'm like, this broken thing is aggravating me because blah, blah, blah. So I said, well, because he was like, why do you want to do your bathroom? The pump house is so much more important. And I'm like, well, A, because my bathroom's only going to cost $1,000. More on that later. And the pump house is going to cost a lot more than that. And B, it's a quick win and I get it done all the way and I don't have to worry about rot problems if there are any, which there were. And the bathroom cost more than $1,000 and took a month, by the way, rather than $1,000 and took a week. That was the original scope. And I was like, and I can do most of the work and you blah, blah, blah. Famous last words. I can do most of the work. A lot of other people did work on that bathroom just for the the thing. So on his list is there's a workshop building on site. For those of you who've been to the Living Free in Tennessee events, we did our second workshop down there because when the tent people came to put the tent up, they refused to put the tent up because I have a hill. And so in 24 hours, Tactical got it as clean as he could. We did sessions down there. That was the last time we did sessions down there, by the way. People have accessed it during events, but oh, I'm going to sneeze too. Hold on. Don't nobody need to hear that. It's a good thing I had a little handy hanky on my table. Anyway, so we did sessions down there. And ever since then, it's just been like it gets cleaned out and then it fills up again. It gets cleaned out, it gets filled up again. The building was built in the early 70s. There's been some termite damage on the structures. Thank you for the bless you, Faith. And there's stuff under Taj Mahal right now that's causing clutter because projects are being done under there because it's not getting rained on. Meanwhile, the workshop has a bunch of crap in it. Well, here's what happened. Rats. So it's been on my list to go down there and just sort of sort through some stuff and repackage some stuff and then do a really hard like purge of all the stuff that was in there before I moved in that I still haven't used 15 years later that I kept because I thought it might be useful on a homestead. Gone, right? It's just time to get rid of it. If I need one of whatever those things are, I'll buy it because storing it for 15 years when I can't store my other stuff in there and then my other stuff gets rained on is not good. And so that was my second like bathroom and then workshop. So I started working on the workshop and I pull my first box out and I open it up and I'm like, I see evidence of, oh my gosh, a rat jumped out. So there was a rat infestation in boxes of stuff in the workshop and in the cabin. I told you guys it's been the year of the rat this year. Well, these rats were so aggressive. They actually ate through a Coleman lantern. I put a picture of it yesterday up online. A Coleman lantern that comes with a plastic cover, and then it's a Coleman lantern that runs on Coleman fuel. They ate through that into there. That's how like far it had gone. And so at the end of yesterday, I had an entire trailer full of stuff that went to the dumpster and got thrown away. And I had everything else cleaned and repackaged in plastic bins and moved out of there. And now two things. One, we can actually get to that part of the workshop where they came in because excluding the rats from the workshop is going to be important. So there's a lot of structural like updates that need to happen there. And not having all that clutter in my life. Like you would think I'd be just so upset about the loss of all the stuff. And some of the things it was like, oh, well, that's a bummer. But at the same time, it was just like, I guess it's time for me to let this stuff go. And now I don't have to maintain that stuff or spend time or money dealing with it And that simplification frees me up to focus on the things that are important. So from an operation independence standpoint, a lot of things got purged yesterday. That's sort of a jump start for me to just have everything on the homestead has a purpose or more than one purpose, rather than there's a bunch of stuff here that was already here that I kept because I didn't know if I'd need it. So it's sort of more of a like spiritual freeing that will lead to some financial improvement in the area. And it also has cleared the way for us to fix that workshop up so that it can turn into what it was supposed to be, which is one part storage and one part wood shop. And then a lot of the projects that happen up near my house can go down there. And then I can do more open houses and stuff here because it's not like, oh, we have to clean up all the projects that are outside under Taj Mahal or so people can be under there, which happens all the time. It's like this vicious cycle. Anyway, those are all of our main topics for today's show. With that, it's time for the main topic, the reason you are here. And I was right. It would take about 25 minutes to get here. My three things. Remember my three things? So those of you who were playing along in early January heard the first of the My Three Things series, which was develop your purpose. And that involves a lot of introspection. And then if you're doing it as a group, which if you have a family, I recommend you do involve your family in developing your family life vision, at least your spouse, because if you want them to come with you, it'd be good if you're going in the same direction. Anyway, that is usually the hardest part of the My Three Things process. Second is developing your purpose. The cool thing about developing your purpose is you've done a lot of work for your purpose at this point. So in the early years when I was using this method, which is a hybrid method of what I do and a friend of mine does, where we used to go out as a pair and she'd do her part, I'd do my part, and we would work with corporations to develop their strategic plans. I merely applied it to life, and then I have worked with enough people, it's changed a little bit. But when we were first developing this, we would, sit down before we had an engagement with somebody, and we would think about and talk about, hey, which things are we going to do in what order? Because there are a series of exercises that we walk people and groups or corporations through. And then we would argue about, well, should we do the purpose first or the vision first? Should we do the purpose first, the vision first? And the funny thing is, when I was doing the marketing stuff with Arrowhead 3 Consulting, we had similar discussions. It was like, should we do, the why first or the what first or so there was lots of that. And over the years, what we came to was that our customers come to the fastest good conclusion, quality conclusion, if we walk them through the development of their vision first and then purpose. But here's what happens when they get their purpose is sometimes they go back and they look at their vision and they say, now that I see it paired with the purpose, I really think this one little thing needs to change. And I'm saying that because why? Because you have your vision. We're going to develop your purpose. And if you get there and you look back at your vision and you're like, that's got to change. It's okay to change it. You did not carve it in stone tablets. It's okay. It's part of the process. It's a little bit messy, but having it be messy, I think, really helps you drill into the core of what you want. And as a reminder, our goal here with both the vision and the purpose statement is that it's said in words that make absolute sense to you and anybody else you're working with. And so that means part of the process is running it by other people who use different language than you to see if they further clarify it. The fewer big words we have in these statements, the better off we are. We want visual words. We want tangible words to the best of our ability. We do not want 3-letter acronyms if we can avoid them, right? That said, LFTN is a 4-letter acronym and it's in mine, but you know what I mean. Anyway, I really think that it's important as you develop your purpose statement that you don't get too stuck on your vision statement. So kind of operate on them. We're going to refer from one to the other, but operate under the sort of assumption that your purpose is a little bit separate from the vision, and then compare them, but we're pulling from the vision to make the purpose. So your purpose statement will take the vision you've developed, boil it down to the so what. Why do you exist in the world? And how is the world better? The world around you better because you are in it, or your family is in it, or your company is in it, right? If you are wildly successful when you work towards your purpose and your vision, and you get it started, and then aliens come down and abduct you and take you away for a decade and do whatever it is that aliens do, and then return you later, and you find that your vision and your purpose was furthered by the people that you interact with, how can you tell it was successful? What looks different a decade from now that makes it so that you know it was done, even if you weren't there? That's what we're talking about. So it's a little bit like woo, 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 right? So to get to this, what I do is I look at the vision statement that I made and I analyze what key elements are present in that vision statement that have to be there. So basically, you start with your vision statement and you start pulling out just lists of characteristics and elements and feelings. Yes, I said feelings that are what are necessary for that vision statement to be successful. Now, the shortcut for this is to go back to the original list of characteristics and just use those, right? The one that you developed your vision statement from? No, because what happened is you used those words and those concepts from all the work you did in all of the questions that you answered. You made your vision statement, and now you've run your vision statement by other people. You've reworded it. You've simplified it as much as you can, and you have it. And now we're going out from that again. So it's kind of like we went whoop in and then out, right? So you're going to have much more success if instead of going back to that other, don't even look at that other list. Just look at your vision statement and make the list. And if I think about the example we talked about last time, it was the Holler community, or the LFTN community provides an inviting, supportive place where aspiring agorists and homesteaders can connect, rejuvenate, share best practices, and prosper together in freedom. That was our vision statement. Now that sounds pretty hoity-toity. I actually wish, like, if I was going to critique that, I would say some more simple language would be better. I do not love the word agorist. I have not found a better way to say it. And the best part about my spell checker on my computer is every time I write agorist, it writes agonist. That tells me that word is wrong. At some point, we're going to have a different word there. I don't know what it is. And here's the deal. I've let that go because it is what it is. And that's part of this process is you strive for perfection, but you get what you get. And if it's something that works, make it work, right? So the key elements that are in that statement are inviting and safe place. Very important. Supportive community. Very important. We have worked so hard to have a supportive community and to keep all of the negative BS out of it. I know it doesn't happen 100%, but it happens in our community way better than most, right? Connecting aspiring homesteaders, connecting aspiring agorists. It's funny because, like, literally I wrote agorist there, and I'm looking at my show notes, and it also says agonist. Okay, so healing and rejuvenation. That concept of best practices or training or mentoring or teaching, coursework, webinars, that's all in the best practices area. Mutual aid and helping one another, which is sort of the same as supportive community, but it sort of isn't. Like, becoming our own economy is an important part of our future success. And then understanding that true freedom is a choice. That all came out of my vision statement, guys. And that came out when I looked at it and made the list separate from looking at what went into it. So with all of those, I used those ideas to craft my purpose statement. And I want to craft this in language or in terms of what you and your family or what we or your project or whatever this is for, what it is. So start by getting your concept crafted and then refine the language so that it's direct, clear, and concise. So some things to keep in mind as you are crafting your purpose statement. 1, remember to include the sort of top view of how, because this is your so what statement. The other one's sort of inspirational. It's your vision. It's describing a state of being. This is so what. I want to know how you are achieving your vision within the purpose statement. Make sure that your purpose statement explains the what of your life plan or project. And it should also cover your why, like what motivates you and your community to be focused in those ways. And I'm thinking of somebody who's setting up a veterans retreat in Sparta. It looks like he's already done a great job of this. He's really motivated to help veterans heal by getting them out of the city and recreating, which is very similar to what the Dark Horse Lodge does, right? There's another one coming to be in Tennessee. Tennessee seems to be the place where veterans go to heal, by the way. That's an interesting thing, isn't it? Okay, so then an example of that then is Living Free in Tennessee / Holler Neighbors is a community that supports healing and mutual prosperity by connecting agorists with homesteaders agorists and homesteaders with knowledge and resources so they can build an alternative to the violent systems currently used to support modern society. That's a mouthful. This one has not gone through the iterative approach, and I'm pasting it in the comments so you can actually see what it looks like. Oh, it won't fit in one. This is the why. This is the what, and it includes part of the solution, which is to become an alternative to the violent system we currently exist in our society. So the idea being we become a community, we support each other, we support the development of mutual prosperity. So the pie is bigger for everybody rather than we fight over the pie. And we're doing it by networking with each other, giving each other knowledge and resources, doing business with each other, and becoming what I would call the counter economy that we've discussed on Unloose the Goose so many times. We become the alternate network without fighting with the network. It's just like, I'm going to go this way now. The rest of us are going this way now who want to. We're going to support each other. We're going to learn new things. We're going to learn what we need to know. That's the Living Free in Tennessee / Holler Neighbor community. Now, I've told you this purpose statement has not been run by the PACES. So here's what you do from here. Once you have the draft purpose statement, and I will do that. I will do this week because I never did do this with this one. And that's why the sentence is so long. Refine the language to be so clear that a 6th grader can read and understand it. Okay, so let me read this to you and ask yourself this question. Can a 6th grader understand it? Living Free in Tennessee is a community that supports healing and mutual prosperity by connecting agorists and homesteaders with knowledge and resources. That's okay. So they can build an alternative to the violent systems currently used to support modern society. Right? Okay, so I'm bleeping every time it's like, whoa, that's getting a little heady there, right? That's okay. I have the general form down there, but a 6th grader cannot understand it. And I'm very blessed to have a 6th grader in my life who I can run this by and talk to her about them. And what I want to do with this statement from this point is Add tangible visual words. Remove unnecessary language. If it has to be 2 sentences, make it 2 sentences rather than one big long run-on sentence. And so just like with your vision statement, you're going to really seek and strive to remove unnecessary words and find better vocabulary, better words to make it very understandable and less jargony. And the worst thing is that there's no good word for agorist, guys, unless you email me and tell me the word I need. So I'm just going to say it again. Living Free in Tennessee /Holler Neighbors is a community that supports healing and mutual prosperity by connecting agorists and homesteaders with knowledge and resources so they can build an alternative to the violent systems currently used to support modern society. Now that you've heard that, and you're like, you really should word it this other way, I expect you fully to email me and tell me what the simplification is you think, because I am literally in the middle of collecting that to hone this one down. So then you'll end up with a simpler statement after that. It usually takes about a week. You run it by your mom, you run it by your friend at church, you run it by your friend at work, you run it by a 6th grader. You find a bunch of people to look at your purpose statement. And once you have it refined and finalized, listen carefully. So you run it by them. You take that simple one, run it by them again and say, okay, this is the new one. Say back to me what you heard. And then they will say back to you what they heard, and they will use different words. And when they use different words, write these words down or record it or do something, right? Especially if there's a phrase that pops out to you is like, oh, that's pretty insightful. Heck, run it through Chat GPT and say, simplify this. I don't know. See what that thing spits out at you. But listen really carefully, because when people listen to something and then say it back to you, the words change. And when those words change, often what happens is you discover a deeper, better way to say something. So then by the end of that, you will have a vision statement and a purpose statement. Write them on a document. Either write them by hand on the wall on a dry erase board, or on Post-it notes, or on butcher paper, or type it into your computer and look at it and compare them and say, how do these two things work together? Vision, purpose. Oh, that's got to adjust a little bit in the vision. Oh, that's got to adjust a little bit in the purpose, and really tweak it. And I know it sounds like, why do I keep just horning down on this language? Because you're going to look at that at least once a week for the rest of your life. That's like why. So you want to have something you can look at, and you want it to be clear. And if anybody ever asks you why you're doing something, you can just say, this is it. This is what I'm doing. Does that make sense? No? What questions do you have? What can I answer for you, right? Once you have that done, that's going to be your first and most important piece of reference to keep your focus. Because what we're doing here with the strategic plan is using the system to clarify what we're doing and why. We will set goals as part of the next step. But we are also using it as a tool to focus on what's most important, so we don't waste time on what's not. And what I mean by that is not that going for a nice recreational hike at Cummings Falls in Tennessee is a waste of time, because it's not. There's a place in my life for that. I have with purpose built in a place in my life for things like that. I had to include it as part of my 3 things, as a matter of fact, because I will work all the time and not recreate, and then I miss the world. And so I actually build with purpose time in to go see the world. Pretty funny, huh? Other people have the opposite problem. Yeah. Erica says, agorist is a good word. Spell check is not used to it. No, it's an agonist. My favorite one was agoist. I just did not want that word to be a thing. Anyway, so that's why we spend so much time on this. So once you have that, the next step is to develop 3 areas, and this is where my 3 things starts getting very 3-ish. 3 areas of focus. These are going to be 3 places where you invest time to be successful getting to your vision and your purpose. And this is where, with my vision statement and my purpose statement, I may think what I'm doing is starting a egg sales business and going out into community and teaching, which is what I thought I was doing when I started. And instead, what I do is I have the Living Free in Tennessee podcast. I facilitate events that connect people, like Self-Reliance Festival and the Spring Workshop and my chicken processing workshop. I participate in other people's events to bring the word out to them, right? I also roast coffee and sell it. I do coaching. All of those things have come together in one as a result of following my vision and purpose. But what I thought I was quote unquote doing on a day-to-day basis, I ran a newspaper for a while that focused on all the great things in this area. Like, it's changed somewhat as I got into it and started doing it, and then realized this is a good fit and this is a not so good fit for me and for this journey that I'm on. So that's what you do. That's what I want you to do as a result of listening to this podcast, is go out and develop your purpose statement. I have a bunch of language in the show notes written about how to develop a purpose, that if you want to actually read those words, because I did not read you my words, it walks through that, everything we just talked about. It gives you the examples of the one I had, and feel free to use that. I have it up there in writing for a reason, so that you can go back, so you don't have to like take mad notes listening to this podcast. Get your purpose done, because the next thing we're going to do, and this is episode 3 of the process, is a SWOT analysis. And anybody who's done one knows what I'm talking about. I'm going to talk you through the 4 areas to analyze, how to get that written up, how to choose priority and connect those things to then develop 3 big areas of focus that are the things you need to work on first to get to your vision and purpose. Okay. And then from there, we go into actual goals, which is what you've been waiting for the whole time. But until we do the heavy work, we don't do the goals. Otherwise, the goals may be completely off the rails for what we're doing. So I hope this helps you guys develop your purpose. If you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. 1, get your coffee at Hollow Roast, except for this is tea that I'm holding up. Get your coffee at hollowroast.com. 2, consider becoming a member. Just head on over to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week. Long silence. Okay, I don't see a lot of questions on this episode, so thanks for joining in. Faith says, just say no to SMART goals. I don't even know what SMART goals are. So thanks for joining in. I hope this helps you guys get the second step on your plan. I'm actually doing the live stream I have with Jack on Wednesday. The topic is a 5-year overnight success. And I'm going to talk about how long it's actually taken to build what I've built here. It's taken longer than 5 years, but 5 years I've been really like harping on it, right? And a lot of it has to do with how I've used my 3 things to get to a relative level of success. And I'm sharing the story on his podcast because I want to reach more people with it, but also because I hear a lot of people share how they like started out doing X and 6 months later, success. And I love it when people have stories like that. I love it for them that it happened that quickly. It didn't happen that way for me. It's been a lot of work, and it will continue to be a lot of work. And it's work that I love doing, and I'm not unhappy with it. But it took me longer. And then, even Jack, he built his podcast, the Survival Podcast, to 100,000 listeners in a couple of years. And we're nowhere near that number, right? But I'd love to be near that number. But I want the right listeners. I just don't want any listeners. but he did it with purpose. But the truth of the matter is he spent 20 years learning how to do that. And then he applied it to his podcast. And I think we don't tell that side of the story enough. And so then people get out and they start their side hustle or they start their new thing and they're like, why aren't I successful yet? It's been 6 months. And Timmy Terminator was successful in 6 months. Like, what the actual? And the truth is that while that does happen to people, it does not happen often. And most of the people I know who are successful, they have a lot of shared characteristics, but their story also has struggle. And it took some time. And as they've gone through the journey, they've gotten better at replicating being successful. And that's pretty cool. But it didn't happen in 6 months. And so that's like, it's not a lottery ticket when you start a business. You don't just like automatically make millions of dollars. I mean, I'm really impressed when people do it fast. And I hope you can. But if you don't get there and you're going on a path of building and making things a little better every day, you're going to get somewhere, and you're probably going to get somewhere good. So just some final thoughts for those of you on the live stream. I will see you guys tomorrow at Tuesday Live. We're going to be live with Nick Ferguson and John Willis tomorrow at 12:30. See you then.